The Palestinian bid for UN membership is turning into the central issue for this year's General Assembly. What happens here in New York is going to reverberate throughout the Middle East, which, as you know, is experiencing unprecedented pro-democracy movements, but also some instability and violence. Israel, if the Palestinian bid is denied, could be further isolated in the region. It's already having issues with its neighbors, which leads me to my first question. In terms of the Arab Spring, you've come down very strongly on the side of pro-democracy movements. Are you worried at all that this will cause further instability and violence in the region?
My only wish and hope is that we'll not see any confrontational atmosphere in the General Assembly over this issue. As a committed proponent of a two-state solution where Israel and Palestinian people can live side by side in peace and security, that is my wish, and I fully support that vision. The realization of this vision has been long overdue. Within that context, I have been a strong supporter of realizing this aspiration of Palestinian people for an independent, viable, and democratic society and nation. I'm not in a position to prejudge any outcome, which course of action Palestinian president will take, because I have not received any letter of application or whatever.
Do you have a meeting scheduled with him?
Yes, I'm going to have a meeting with the President Abbas when he comes to New York. Yes.
On Monday?
The date has not been fixed yet, but in any way, I'm going to have a bilateral meeting with him.
But they have not indicated to you whether or not they will seek recognition in the General Assembly or the Security Council?
They have not yet.
Will you say that your hope is to avoid confrontation at the General Assembly? Do you think that the Palestinians bringing forward this request will help their democratic aspirations, which you say you support, or will it get in the way of further negotiations?
I have always been supporting Palestinian people's legitimate aspiration to have an independent state and to have a freedom and democratic life without any restrictions.
Do you support their membership in the UN?
The membership of the United Nations of any state, or recognition or not recognition of any state, is a matter to be decided by the member states. It's not, it does not fall under my authority or jurisdiction according to a charter of the United Nations. However, as a strongly committed proponent of two-state vision, and I've been working very closely with both parties and other stakeholders in the region and elsewhere. As a Secretary General and as a member of a quartet, this is one of my very top priority issues. I do hope that two parties will resume their negotiations so that they can genuinely discuss their future.
Do you think the Palestinians' actions have helped bring the issue of Palestinian statehood back to the forefront, or are they proving to be a hindrance to these negotiations?
It's true that this has come to the height, attention of international community. It is only natural that after such a long time that Palestinian people have been frustrated and trying to reach some of their goals. Whatever road that they may choose, it is up to them. But my only wish is that if both parties could engage in further meaningful dialogue, that will be much more desirable at this time.
In fact, more than 100 countries recognize Palestine already. It looks like they have the majority of the General Assembly's support that they would need. As the Secretary General, do you feel some responsibility to represent the majority of countries when in fact it's really just one powerful nation that seems to be holding up this process? Is that fair? And as the Secretary General, do you have a role to play in representing the majority of the world?
A representation of any political entity, state in the United Nations is different from any individual recognition by individual country outside the United Nations. Now we are talking about recognition of Palestinian state as a state in the United Nations, or admitting of Palestinian state as a full member of the United Nations. That is something to be determined by the member states. That's a part of this two-state vision. Then to realize this, it would have been much desirable if there would have been some agreement between the parties and would be blessed by whole international community. That's my position. But as far as their legitimate concerns, their aspirations, and their enduring all these sufferings, that I fully sympathize. And that is why I have been always urging Israeli authorities to lift these restrictions and provide all humanitarian assistance and respect their aspirations.
What do you think it will take to get negotiations back on track?
I hope that there should be some political atmosphere conducive to the resumption of dialogue be created. It is true again that the Israeli government has continued to announce this settlement after the new settlement. That must have been frustrating to many Palestinian states.
U.S. government documents that have been made available through WikiLeaks show that you refuse to release the full report on the situation in Gaza and endorse some of the recommendations in that report after coming under intense pressure from the United States. In light of that, can the UN be an impartial arbiter or seen as an impartial arbiter in the Middle East?
I have any report or panel fully disclosed, made it public, including the panel report on Gaza.
Only the summary was released, correct?
Yeah, this was a summary. That really explains almost all important things. That was my decision to disclose all this summary report. Yes.
But you know, the criticism has been that even in the last year, where the UN has taken some bold action in Libya, in Cote d'Ivoire, that sometimes Ban Ki-moon follows the Security Council instead of leading the UN. How would you respond to that criticism?
When it comes to Arab Spring and firm principle of human rights and democracy, I have been quite vocal, and I have been leading this. That is what I have been speaking to members of the Security Council. On some occasions, on some cases, Security Council has not been able to state their own unified positions, as in the case of Syria. But I have been speaking to members of the Security Council that the United Nations should be able to speak in coherent and in one voice. That is what I've been saying. Of course, as a Secretary General, I have to have a very close coordination with the Security Council, and on most of the important cases, for example, in establishing missions, and in carrying out important missions, then I have to get a specific mandate from the Security Council. That may be the case we were talking about.
I want to come back to Syria and the Arab Spring, but one more question regarding Israel and Gaza and the Palestinians, and that's the UN's report on the Turkish flotilla, which attempted to reach Gaza, and there were 9 people killed when Israeli forces attempted to stop that flotilla from reaching Gaza. That report is based on the premise that Israel's blockade of Gaza is legal. That basis contradicts the finding of most experts, including many of your own UN experts who say the blockade is illegal. How could that report be endorsed by you when it contradicts so many of your experts?
When I established this panel of experts led by Mr. Palmer, the main purpose of this was to find out the facts and context, and I wanted to have a recommendation so that, first of all, Israel and the Turkish government would improve their relationship, and so that there would not happen any such kind of tragic incidents.
Instead, it's led to them growing further apart.
I'm not in a position to make any comment on substantive legal argument or political argument or recommendations by the panel of experts.
Why not?
This is their findings. Once they are appointed, they are totally independent, without any interference of outside, including myself. I am only responsible to create and provide administrative support for them so that they can conduct their work as an independent member.
But is the blockade legal?
That I'm not in a position to make any comment. That was their findings, and then may...
But other UN experts say, no, you're the head of the UN.
Again, that is their views on this. I'm not the legal expert, and even though I would have some of my personal views, I would not be in a position to state my own views, because those are the all independent personalities or group of people.
Okay. Getting back to the Arab Spring then. On Libya, the UN took a very strong stand, calling for international intervention to protect civilians. And with the support of the international community, it looks like a dictator that was in power for 42 years is gone. And there may be a legitimate democratic government to follow. Do you think this is now the model for the UN and involvement?
In several cases which we have experienced this year, in the case of Côte d'Ivoire and Egypt and Tunisia, and most recently now in Libya, people have shown their own will to the leaders of their respective country, that their aspiration, genuine aspiration, should be heard, and the leaders have a broad responsibility to listen to their people and uphold the democratic principle. In that regard, I am very much encouraged by the way these trends have continued toward the right direction. This looks like it had happened by accident, but it has not. It is an evolution of history. They are going toward the right direction on the basis of a fundamental principle of democracy. Now that Libyan people have shown their will, and it has been accepted by their people, it is a moral and political responsibility of international community to help them overcome these challenges. United Nations is now on the ground, and I have requested a mandate from the Security Council to establish a United Nations mission there. I hope that Security Council will act on it as soon as possible. Our focus is, first of all, provide the immediately needed humanitarian assistance. And then more short-term and the mid-term target is to help them establish a public security, establish a rule of law, and protect the human rights, and facilitate all this political, inclusive reconciliation, national reconciliation, and draft the constitution, and help this electoral process, and also provide short, mid-term and longer-term socio-economic help. This is exactly what Chairman Jalil and Prime Minister Jibril asked me specifically. My special advisor on post-conflict planning, Ian Martin, was in Tripoli and Benghazi. He came back for a report to the Security Council. He's now already on the way to Tripoli back. He will try to lead this coordinating way. One principle which have been agreed in Paris summit meeting is that the future of Libya should be determined by Libyan people. This ownership. And then the quick and adequate response. And thirdly, international coordination. For that purpose, I'm going to convene a summit meeting on Libya on the 20th of September, next week, where many world leaders will participate.
In Libya, there are complaints that the NATO-led intervention went beyond its UN mandate. Do you think that NATO went too far in supplying arms to the rebels, in targeting Colonel Gaddafi, and putting a government regime change ahead of peace talks, essentially?
I was assured by Secretary General of NATO, Mr. Rasmussen, and you must have seen his interview on TVs, that NATO's aim was not target any political leaders, including Colonel Gaddafi. I agree with that. And their target was to help Libyan people to be protected from this excessive.
But his compound was bombed, his TV stations were bombed, and clearly there has been recognition of the National Transitional Council. And as a result of that, you have some members of the Security Council who say they're reluctant to take action in Syria because they feel that there was not enough emphasis on peace talks.
I attended this first contact group meeting in Paris immediately after the Security Council mandate was adopted. And after that, the military action began by NATO. And I believe that they have been trying to conduct this military operation within the framework and within the mandate given by Security Council mandate. Yeah.
Okay. Recently, there have been a string of sexual abuse scandals relating to UN peacekeepers, most recently in Haiti, but also some documents have come to light showing problems in Cote d'Ivoire, Ivory Coast, Bosnia, Congo. Yet there's still little accountability. Reportedly, more than 200 cases, and very few of them have been prosecuted. Why haven't you done more to press for accountability in the troop-contributing countries who supply these peacekeepers and commit these crimes?
Zero tolerance on sexual violence has been and will be continuously my top priority and principle.
But the countries who commit these offenses often aren't named, the perpetrators aren't named, and they're not prosecuted. Couldn't the UN do more to encourage that?
In case of what happened by Uruguayan soldiers, they have been immediately confined to their barracks, and I appreciate the President of Uruguay and his government who have taken very swift and firm, principled measures to investigate and punish them. that is what we've been asking to the troop contributing countries, and I have dispatched immediately on Assistant Secretary General of Peacekeeping Operations Department, Mr. Bamburi, accompanied by military advisor and police advisor. We take it very seriously. When I got this report, I was very angry, and I fully sympathize with the anger and frustration of Haitian people and the President Martelly. But we will not be tolerant, and this will be applied to all the peacekeeping troop contributing countries. There are many cases when we have taken very disciplined and accountable way. We have repatriated whole contingent to their country, and I personally talked to the leaders to put them on trial, and they did exactly. That's what we are doing. And whether it is peacekeeping operations, whether by civilian people, we are taking this issue very seriously.
Okay, and since I'm getting the sign that we don't have much time left, one more on Haiti. Today, thousands of people are demonstrating there. They're very angry about the sexual abuse scandal there. Also, the fact that UN peacekeepers are seen as responsible for bringing in cholera to the country. Is it time for the UN to leave Haiti? Has it worn out its welcome finally?
It's up to the people and government of Haiti, whether they want us to stay or not. I read the report saying that President Martelly said that they want MINUSTA, UN peacekeeping operations, longer, as long as they want. We will respect it. As you may know, we have temporarily increased our strength of troops immediately after earthquake January last year. And I have instructed some partial drawdown of such forces in view of the fact that the presidential election was peacefully conducted, and also many of the reconstruction and peace and stability have been restored. But we will discuss very closely with the Haitian government. I have an opportunity of a bilateral meeting with President Martelly next week, and we will discuss this matter. I understand fully the frustration of Haitian people about this sexual violence, but as far as UN is concerned, we are very firm. We have already taken very decisive action.
One last question. If you can look ahead to the 66th General Assembly, what are your hopes? What will make this a success? And what are your fears? What, especially given the Arab Spring and the Palestinian issue, what are your hopes for this?
One of my priorities for this year, which I'll be reporting to General Assembly, is that first we take this sustainable development, addressing climate change, energy shortages, and food crisis, gender empowerment as top priorities. And second, I would like to report to the General Assembly so that member states could help all those countries in transition. We have to help them so that their legitimate and ardent aspiration could be realized by the strong support of international community. This is a very good opportunity for us to establish more firmly the root of principles of democracy, greater freedom, and participatory democracy, where all men and women can live without any fear of oppression and can live with dignity, particularly women and the youth.
Secretary General Ban Ki-moon, thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
The